Creative Brain Candy by creators for creators.
You're listening to Simply Stogies, a monthly podcast dedicated to the cigar enthusiast. Light up a stogie, sit back and relax while James brings you along on his journey as a new cigar smoker. Simply Stogies will review cigars, discuss topics that cigar aficionados find important, and will probably learn a few things along the way. Now, here's your host of Simply Stogies, James.
Welcome to Simply Stogies. I am your host, James. This episode, we have with us the founder, the guy behind this brand new newsletter that's out there in the cigar world, The Blend. Evan, welcome to Simply Stogies.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
We're happy to have you here. I'm looking forward to finding out more about your journey and how you came to start The Blend, and how things are going and all of that. But before we do, I'd like to say a big congratulations to Spoiler They Die, one of the podcasts of the great family of podcasts over at creativebraincandy.com, as they have reached their 50th episode this week. Congratulations to them. That is a huge milestone that not a lot of podcasts make. So if you're into true crime, go check out Spoiler They Die, creativebraincandy.com. There are a couple chicks in Canada who have a dark sense of humor, but they are very respectful of the victims as they take you through true crime as only Kat and Logan can. creativebraincandy.com. Check them out. And while you're on the internet, make sure you, if you like what you hear here at Simply Stogies podcast, go to buymeacoffee.com/Simply Stogies and support us. With your support, we can continue to get out there and go to the trade show in July and to the Charlotte Cigar Fest in May and beyond, the Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest later on this year. And it just keeps going and going. There's always somewhere to go, somewhere to be. With your help, we can get out there and we can do it. Buymeacoffee.com/Simply Stogies. And thank you so much for even considering becoming a supporter of Simply Stogies podcast. And now that all the shilling is out of the way, Evan, welcome to Simply Stogies.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning, because that's where every great story starts, is the beginning. How did you start smoking cigars?
So this is a tricky one because I feel like everyone kind of starts different ways. Sometimes they start fast, sometimes they start slow, but I kind of got my start smoking cigars back when I was like 19, 20, around that point. But I wouldn't say that I was a serious cigar smoker by any means. My dad's always been a cigar smoker, and it was something where I was like, oh, I'm going to smoke cigars. I'm going to get into this. And I did it. And I have a terrible memory. I should preface this with that. But
it doesn't get better as you get older.
I know it really has not improved whatsoever.
No.
But yeah, so I got into it. I smoked cigars probably, I want to say, like 6 months, and went really heavy on like the Connecticut's and stuff. But then I kind of I moved away from it. I'd have a cigar every so often with my dad in the summer outside or on the 4th of July or whatever. But it wasn't until I'd say a little bit before last summer, so maybe last spring, I really kind of started to pick up getting into it. It's a good way to spend time with my dad. We'd sit outside, and with the pandemic and everything, when that came on, it kind of became the only way to see people. As my Apple Watch is talking right now, sorry. I'm like, what's going on? But it became a good way to hang out with people during the pandemic outside, at social distances, if you will. And that's kind of like when I picked up. So I'd say I've probably been into cigars heavy for like a year to a year and a half.
So COVID-19 is really what pushed you into the hobby. Before that, you would say you were more on the fringe socially every once in a while with your dad?
Yeah. Who would think that an affliction of the lungs would push me into smoking cigars?
Right.
But yeah, that's really what did it. Up until that point, it was kind of like cigar here and there with dad. I'm kind of like, when I do things too, and it doesn't matter what it is, I kind of just go like way too crazy right off the rip. So whatever happened, whatever that final hook was to really pull me into cigars, after that, the rest was history. And now it's just over the top.
Do you remember what that cigar was during COVID-19? You're like, why am I not doing this more often? This cigar is amazing. Was it maybe one cigar?
Oh man, I'm trying to think back because I'm like, I see pictures in my head of the cigars that I smoked, but I'm like, oh, what cigar was it? I think I know what it was. My dad's a very affordable cigar smoker, and
frugal. He's
frugal. He's a frugal cigar smoker, And he, I think he reached out to me about a deal that was on, it was on Holtz Cigars, and he's like, "This is a crazy deal. It's like only $15. You get these 10 cigars, whatever. They're great cigars." And I bought some for him. He's like, "Can you order them for me? I already ordered some." And so I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll order some for you," because it was like a one per person thing. Sure. But then I was like, "Oh, this does look pretty good," and I think I ordered myself a second pack of those same cigars with a different email address, and that was my first plunge in. And I want to say, oh man, it was like a mixed bag, but I can't remember which one out of that. But that was what set me off, was that interaction. I know that was the first time I've thought about it, but that is what pulled me in. That was my first cigar purchase for myself since this all started, was a crazy deal pack from Holtz.
Right. That's what allowed the CAD to take hold inside of you.
Exactly. And then after that, it was like, I started smoking them, and then I kind of was like, oh, I'm going to drag my friends into this. So throughout the summer, I started having guys over, and we would socially distance outside. We would smoke some meats. We would get bottles of whiskey, and I'd pick 2 cigars for everyone, and I'd order those online. And we did that once a month. So that's kind of where I picked up. But those cigars that I was smoking then, like Monte Cristo Classic, stuff like that, they're more of the stuff that you'd find traditional Cigars International, the type stuff that when you get into it, you start smoking. But that's changed quite a bit. Now I'm in boutiques and all that stuff.
It has that. It's interesting that you bring that up. That's obviously how a lot of us started. That's how I started several years ago, was smoking the JR specials. Like, I can get, X amount of cigars for $20. This is a great deal. Not really knowing what was out there. And then when you find what's out there, so you're not like your dad now. You're not really a frugal smoker. You
no. My wife wishes I was a frugal smoker.
Well, so does mine.
And I will say that my dad now is a much more refined smoker. He is also less frugal. And it's also because I order way too many cigars, so I just end up feeding him fantastic cigars all the time.
Let's play this game. How many cigars do you have in your humidor? Go.
I think at this point, rough count is probably 650 or something like that.
Oh, that's a respectable number, Evan. That is a very respectable number. I have recently dwindled under 1,000.
Wow.
So my wife is happy that it's under 1,000. I haven't bought any in about 30 days. So
that's impressive.
You have no idea.
So this just happened the other day, which I thought was comical. So I've been ordering cigars like crazy, to the point where it's like every single day I had some box coming in, whether it was from a trade or it was from a store, whatever. I would have cigars coming in. It was I want to say a week ago, my wife goes, "Hey, the postman, he stopped me outside, and he asked if my husband was okay." And I was like, "Oh yeah?" And she goes, "Yeah, he was worried because there were no packages coming to the house anymore. And he used to bring them so frequently. He wanted to make sure that everything was okay." So I laughed, and then he pulled me aside. I want to say 4 days ago. He's like, I really appreciate your business. You used to always have packages all the time. I was like, oh man, I really do have a problem.
Yeah. No, I'm on a first name basis with the mail person. The mail person here, I call him person because I don't know what they, what their pronouns are. And I don't want that hate
post
mail.
Person.
Yeah. The post person. I was walking my daughter around the block, and we were going to go down to the park, and she stops me. She's like, "Oh, hey, here's this package for you." It wasn't cigars, shockingly enough. It wasn't, but it was cigar related. It was some shirts that I ordered, Simply Stogie shirts and whatnot. I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I've been waiting for this." She's like, "Yeah, it's been kind of light lately." Sure. Yeah, sure has. Thanks. Have a good day. At that point, I'm like, I need to stop. or at least slow down.
The cigar enthusiasts are the ones that have been keeping the post office in business.
Without a doubt. Without us, it would have gone away a long time ago, and we'd have to rely on Pony Express or whatever's out there. So so do you remember what that first cigar was that you smoked? I know that takes me back. I don't remember the first one I smoked. I know it was an Espinosa, but I don't remember anything more specific than that. Do you remember your first cigar?
I want to say it was like, oh man, what? My dad's also in my lounge right now smoking, and so he's like trying to figure it out too. At the same time. He's saying it's a Connecticut too. What Connecticut? We're I don't even know. I don't know if it's. I know the first ones I ever had was Rocky Patel Connecticut is what I used to have back in the day. This time around, I can't remember. It was probably a Connecticut that got me started. I can tell you the first like memorable one that I like when I really knew that I like kind of caught the bug was actually I felt like super cool about it when I smoked it was like the Cigar Culture blend number 2, blend number 3. That was like the first one that I remember feeling like pretty cool. Like I had joined some Discord groups. I had been doing like reading some stuff and I placed an order, and that was like the first like unheard of brand that I had bought that I was like pretty amped about. But I think that was like, that's the first one that comes to mind about something that I like when I really kind of got into it was the Cigar Culture blend.
Do you have a favorite cigar right now? Not to put you on the spot, because we're going to talk about your newsletter here in just a little bit. And I know for me, a lot of people are like, well, what's your favorite cigar? And everybody knows that I have a favorite brand, and that's Castagli. I am a fanboy, and I like, there's nothing I can do about it.
You even went as far as to get their like exclusive Lebanon release or whatever it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That's good. That review will be out next week. I'm trying to think of dates. It should be out next week. Next week will be, that's it. Origins will be out next week. This week was the Enigma, which everyone should be able to see, simplystogies.com. And last week was the Spalato number 2. So it's like it's a Castagli April is what I call it.
You fancy, sir.
Well, I don't know about that. I like what I like.
That's the way to do it. So the interesting thing about my humidor is, so when I first started kind of building the collection, I was buying a lot of boxes, and I found myself that I constantly wanted to try new things. And so I'd buy these boxes and I'd smoke like 2 of them, and then I would move on to something else. So what I started to do is I started buying a lot of 5ers and singles, and it's been very hard for me to say like, here's my go-to favorite smoke that I smoke all the time, because I smoke a different cigar almost every time that I smoke. Yeah. But with that being said, I can also say I probably have like a favorite brand. My favorite brand right now is probably HVC.
Oh, such a good brand.
Yeah. I mean, for everything that I've smoked from them, I've enjoyed it. I think hotcakes are like addictive and fantastic. I think the 500-year anniversary, like the Soros, are like incredible smokes to the point that I smoked one and then bought a box. The Serie A, I've bought 2 boxes of those. Those are really good. I bought the HVC Black Fridays. I had a bad experience with one. I haven't smoked the second one yet, but I've been told that they're pretty good. I probably just had a bad egg. But I think HVC for the most part, I really, really like. And then for like a general like favorite cigar, I guess that I probably smoked the most of recently is the Herrera Esteli Maduro Brazil. That has been my kind of like go-to smoke. Like if I'm like looking to just light something up and chat or whatever, I always grab one of those.
I like the Miami a lot, the Herrera Esteli Miami.
The Miami's really good too. And that was, And speaking of when I bought that Cigar Culture bundle, I had also bought some of those Herrera Esteli Miamis. And that was another early cigar that I smoked that I thought was incredible.
Are you still smoking Connecticut's, or have you moved on? I mean, so I've been doing this now this will be 3rd year in June. I'll be smoking cigars like on the regular. I still like the Connecticut. I still think I like the mild medium experience with some coffee first thing in the morning. I don't want to bombard myself with pepper and spice right away, with a Nicaraguan puro, but with something Dominican, nice mild medium profile, Cuban. Do you still like those light medium profiles today, or are you finding yourself gravitating towards the Herrera Esteli Miamis or whatever?
I I feel like I haven't had like a Connecticut that's really done it for me lately. I haven't been smoking a ton of them, but I will say when I kind of go back to them, it's just like, I don't know if I'm like not past that phase, but it's like, I just haven't been drawn to those. I think it's because I smoked them for so long, kind of out of fear of like smoking anything stronger. Where it was just like, I always picked up a Connecticut. So now I think I am less attracted to them, but there are some good Connecticut's that I enjoy. Like actually, I in that first early smoking phase this time around, and I think this is what my dad was trying to tell me before, is I bought the Oliva Connecticut's. Those I was smoking a ton of. I thought those were incredible Connecticut cigars. Like the construction, the burn, everything was fantastic. But if I picked one of those up now, I think I'd probably be kind of bored.
Yeah. And I can understand that. I still like that. Like I still smoke. See, I did it different than you, right, Evan? So you bought boxes. I would smoke something first to make sure I liked it. And if I liked it, I was buying a box of it because I wanted to make sure that I had it when I was in the mood for it. So I have like the numero uno, like that is my number one go-to cigar in the morning. Cottontail. I just ran out of those, but that was a number one in the morning. So I did it kind of opposite, but I still find the Connecticut, I find the fun in pairing it with new coffee and seeing how it does.
I mean, for something that pairs, it's like, I could see that with coffee all day because they kind of go hand in hand, especially the creaminess of a lot of the Connecticut's that you get, so I think it probably has a lot to do with the pairing. I end up smoking a lot of the cigars that I smoke with whiskeys now, and certain whiskeys will just destroy a Connecticut. You won't even really get any of the subtleties from it. So, but coffee is something that I love to smoke with as well. But I don't smoke as early in the day most times. So usually if it's a coffee, it's like a decaf later at night or something,
Right. Well, I've gone to this in the afternoon, have a pick me up, have a little pick me up. I'll have a cigar, I'll have a coffee, I'll take some shots for Instagram, and then I'll sit there with my thoughts and just kind of try to decompress from whatever crazy morning I've had.
For a second, I thought you were going to say, I take some shots. And I was going to say, wow, you really light it up in the afternoon.
That's that. Well, when in my 20s, maybe, but now in my 40s, not so much.
It's funny you mentioned Instagram because like something they don't tell you when you're trying to get into cigars and like be part of a community and produce content is you got to be like on your Instagram game. And I have to say, the last week I've really slacked to the point where some people have messaged me and they've been like, are you okay?
Yeah. Are you okay? Haven't seen anything in a while.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I know it's just like crazy week, but man, you really got to stay up on your Instagram.
No, you really do. It's weird. It's fun to talk to other creators about this kind of stuff because a lot of people in the community don't get it. A lot of people on Instagram are there because they just want to see what their friends are smoking, these people that they know. They follow us because, we put out content. And so they get to see what we're smoking and they get to interact with us that way. Right. But they don't have to, put what they're smoking every time they do it. And for me, it's funny the looks that I get when I go in the lounge and I take that picture in the lounge of what I'm smoking. I get the weirdest looks. Do you get that?
So here's the funny thing is there's not too many big lounges around me. And because I started smoking like in the midst of COVID, everything was shut down. So the majority of my smoking is either outside on my porch or I turned my garage into what is probably a legitimate cigar lounge. That's like a 600 square foot lounge. And I have guys out every Friday. I have my dad out regularly. So I mostly smoke here. So no one gives me funny looks anymore because they know any cigar that I light up, I'm going to take a picture of it first. So
nice. Lucky you. So let's talk about the blend. Let's talk about this newsletter because it's interesting because you kind of went the same route I did. You fell into cigars and you were like all in on cigars. This is it. This is my hobby. I love this. And now you've turned this into content, but it's a little bit different. Talk to me a little bit about how the blend came about.
Yeah. So when I was getting into cigars, I was, like I mentioned, I was on Reddit. I was in different Discord groups. I'm reading different websites with the reviews. I'm signed up for emails from different stores and networks. And it was really like drinking, water from like a fire hose. It was just like so much stuff. but I felt like I was trying to catch up. You know what I mean? Like learn as much as I could, as fast as I could. And at the same time, there's kind of this renaissance happening with newsletters, email newsletters, where people are curating content and they were, putting out this really compelling kind of weekly sends and stuff that I was enjoying outside of the cigar world. And I was like, hey, well, since I'm already doing all this stuff, why don't I start just putting it together and I'll start my own newsletter? And so that's kind of like where it came together. I was looking for kind of like a pandemic hobby, if you will. I had cigars and I kind of wanted to build something. And so that's where the blend came from. It was just kind of trying to put lots of information in an easy to digest format out there for other people in the community that wanted to read it.
And there is a lot of information out there. I mean, for those that don't know, there are a ton of different sites that do reviews. There are a ton of different podcasts. There are even more YouTube channels. It's a lot for anybody to try to aggregate all of this into a digestible newsletter. Talk to me about the process, Evan. What goes into that? How do you figure out what you're going to cover, how it's going to be laid out? How do you pull for those?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was mostly just reviews, and it was only a couple review websites and some news. I think reviews for the most part, and for like a digest, are probably the best thing, because most people, I think they want to see a score and they want to see like a conclusion. And then if they want to learn more, they will go and learn more. So that was like kind of the first thing I started with, was like, hey, if I can round up the reviews from the week so people can see it at a glance, that's great. I started with like Half Wheel and Cigar Dojo. And then as I started to kind of try to grow and bring more content, I started to loop in others like Stogie Press, Cigar Coop. I feel like I'm forgetting another one, Blind Man's Puff. So I started pulling in reviews from all those guys. And so the review section for the most part is pretty easy to curate. I make sure that the conclusions are there with the scores. I always link out to the outlets, but where kind of some of the curation comes in, and it's a careful kind of dance, because email needs to be a certain length for it to be kind of like delivered to your mailbox. If not, the email service providers get angry and they put it in spam. So right. I try to parse some content out here and there. So a lot of times if there's like a redux, for example, like someone comes back and they smoke a cigar, a second time, that's an older cigar, or, they're smoking a cigar that they've had in their humidor for like 5 years. I often kind of cut those out just because like I want someone to be able to read the review and then go take action on it and be like, I want to try that cigar and smoke it. I don't think there's as much value for the reader if it's something that they can't get their hands on. I think it's kind of frustrating at that point. So a lot of times in reviews, those will get chopped off. Sometimes I'll chop like Cuban stuff out because, those aren't as readily available, but mostly it's the redux type stuff. For the news, there's a lot of like boilerplate news that comes out that's like price increases, hiring decisions at companies. Most of the times I chop that out. I think for the average cigar enthusiast, if you will, they're more keen to learn about, new lines, new releases, brands, things like that. So you'll always see that in the news section, but you'll see less of the things about price increases and whatnot. And then across podcasts and YouTubes, that's something that I didn't do originally, but as I started to build relationships in the community, I was like, hey, I want to like get these people out there. Like, the Half Wheels of the world, everyone knows who they are. Cigar Dojo, everyone knows who they are. But, there's a lot of great podcasts and YouTubers that people may not stumble across or they may not know. So I was like, I want to get these in the newsletter. And so I used to just kind of put them all in, I'd put in every episode from the week, whatever. But now that I've got so many, I really try to put one from each outlet. I try to pick one that's relevant. So, if it's kind of just, a banter one, usually I'll kind of opt to pull in one of the outlets, cigar reviews or something like that. But I really want every piece of content that's in the newsletter to be something that someone will find value in, and that it kind of has a broader appeal, if that makes sense.
How many hours a day do you spend on this newsletter? Because honestly, that's a lot. And I can tell you from experience, we decided to get away from the news for a plethora of reasons here at Simply Stogies. So if you go to our website there, you'll find some old news, but for the most part, we don't cover the news anymore because there's just so many people out there that already do. But for me, I would get the news second. It wasn't that everybody got the news at the same time. It was Half Wheel got the news, and then everybody else gets the news. And in some cases, and I won't mention names of manufacturers, they would send the press release to Half Wheel. They'd send the press release to the majority of larger outlets, and then they'd send it to everybody else.
Well, I mean, the benefit for me is I'm aggregating. So I'm going to pull, and here's the other thing. It comes out on Monday, and I cover the previous week. So I'm not at the mercy of the news cycle, if you will. So, and I pull from all those sites. So you're always going to make sure you get the most relevant news. For the most part, Half Wheel usually is on top of it. But I try to pull in from as many sources as I typically can. But I kind of, when I started, was thinking the same way, like, how do I get these press releases or whatever? And I was like, you know what? I don't have to get the press releases. I don't need to cover them. I just need to get people the news, and I'll link them. I'm happy to link them to Half Wheel or Dojo or whatever,
Right.
Because they've got the staff and they've got the know-it-all to do it. So, let them be the ones to cover it, and I'll send the people there.
Right. So do you have relationships with all of these people that you aggregate from?
So I have reached out to pretty much everyone that I aggregate from. And the only people that I actually have relationships with are the podcasts and the YouTubers. Everyone's been very willing and excited to be part of it. And they, I have conversations with them. But unfortunately, the other groups, the bigger sites, I'm still a small fish to most of them. So, I don't have a relationship with them per se. I'm hoping that maybe as I grow and hopefully I keep sending them traffic that, I'll be able to develop that relationship. But, I'm happy to give them credit and send people there because they're providing value, and, that's fine by me right now.
I think you do provide a valuable service because, like I said, there's a ton of news that comes out every week. Not all of it is stuff that the cigar, Joe Cigar is going to like, that he needs to know. But you aggregate it, you pull out kind of the weeds, and you get in there and you give everybody what they want, what they really want. They want the scores, they want the big headline news, and they want to know what they should be smoking.
Exactly. And the other thing is too, is it's all about diversity. Each one of those outlets has their own kind of unique spin on coverage. They have their own, I'd say probably brands they align with, and by getting a newsletter that has all of them, you're able to kind of pick and choose and make your own choices and not be kind of swayed one way or another by one outlet, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a chance to plug the blend. How can somebody sign up for the blend right now? Like, let's say they're listening to this podcast, they're on the interwebs. Direct them where to go to sign up.
So if you want to sign up for the blend, you go to www.theblend.news. It is not a .com, it is a .news, but it's short and sweet. You sign up there, you put your email in, and then every Monday, usually later in the afternoon to early evening, I send out the blend, which will have the previous week's kind of coverage. And that's the easiest way to join up.
How many subscribers do you have right now?
So we are close to scratching 1,000 subscribers right now.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's really tricky. Sometimes it slows down. Sometimes it speeds up. I will say it's really, really hard to build something in cigars because of the lack of ability to advertise. I'm in a lot of groups with people that are building newsletters and other niche industries and stuff. And I always try to kind of take inspiration from them and learning from them, but they get to do stuff like run Google AdWords campaigns or Facebook ads or Instagram ads. And you can't do that in cigars. And actually, I'm actually just my full account across Facebook and Instagram is blocked from advertising altogether now.
Yeah.
Because I tried to understand their policies and get blocked. So it's been a challenge to grow and to pick up those subscribers. So, it's been trying to find other ways to get the name out there and to meet people and get people to sign up.
You really do have to get creative with it as a creator, content creator in the cigar industry, because they limit you. And if you are promoting the use of tobacco or tobacco products, you are automatically persona non grata when it comes to advertising. They don't want your money. They don't need your money, and they won't take your money.
100%. But they'll still put the little buttons everywhere that say sponsor this post, boost this post, but you can't use it.
Well, right. Unless you're a cigar aficionado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which irks me. I get it. We're small fish in a big, in a big ocean. I get it. But still, it's kind of, it's a slap in the face to content creators that we don't have the means to do that. We can't fight, the evil corporation, so to speak, which I'm not saying Cigar Aficionado is evil. I'm just saying they're huge.
And that's part of the blend too, is like, part of my view for it is like, obviously every podcast and YouTube video can't go plug 100 other podcasts and YouTube videos. Some people don't even want to, it's kind of competitive, but with the blend, really, I'm hoping like, hey, if I can grow the blend, then I can help everyone else grow. Because you're getting all these other people in there, and not everyone's big. There's some people that I cover that, have YouTube channels with, only maybe a couple hundred subscribers, maybe under 100, but they may have good content or they're a really cool person. And so I'd be glad to put them in there. I'm going to keep trying to do that with as much time as I'm allowed. I know you had asked earlier, like how long it takes, but it's like, honestly, when I started this, I told my wife, I'm like, oh yeah, this will take like a couple hours a week. And really, it's like, the newsletter in itself is probably, it's the large part of my Sunday evening into early Monday morning is putting the newsletter together, to make sure the content's relevant. And then like we were talking about earlier, Instagram takes so much time just to like post and interact. And, you layer in Discord groups and Reddit. And it's like, I feel like I can't even keep up with everything, but I really want to talk to people and like, keep learning. But it's like, it's so hard to keep up.
It is. So how do you juggle that? I mean, I think this is good insight for any content creators. How do you juggle those relationships? How do you juggle your time management when you're trying your best to get content out and you're trying to make these relationships and you're trying to grow the brand, all of these different things that content creators have to do on a daily basis that most people don't see and they don't understand. They just turn on a podcast or they just open your newsletter and they read it and they don't really think about the time that it takes to come up with this kind of content. It takes a lot of time. How do you manage that? Because you talk about your wife. There has to be days.
Yeah, ever. I mean, so we had our daughter just turned 1 a little while ago. She's 13.
Oh, well, happy birthday to her.
Thank you. Yeah. So that was the other part about this is like, I'm a new dad. And so that takes time. And, my wife has been incredibly patient, incredibly supportive. She proofreads and tests the links of the newsletters before they go out, which is awesome. But I mean, she supports coming out here and smoking and taking the pictures and kind of having these conversations. And so a big part of it is having a supportive spouse. I'll say that first and foremost. And
agreed, 100%.
Yeah, Sabrina, my wife, thank you. I'm sure she'll listen to this. I'll force her to listen to this.
Just so you get the props for saying thank you to her.
Exactly. I'll be like, listen for that Easter egg.
I would absolutely do the same thing.
But so there's a couple things for like the creator. So like for me, the newsletter, first and foremost, I've told myself like, hey, no matter what, you have to get this out. So even if it's something that, I'm not 110% proud of, or I don't think it's the best like product, I always will get it out, because sometimes I don't have the time, or sometimes like I'm having a rough week, there's stuff going on at home or whatever. But since I've launched it, I launched the blend mid-November, I have sent one every Monday without fail, no matter what. So I think, just getting that, telling yourself like, this will go out. I will make sure that it is out and I meet my promise of sending it out. That's the most important thing.
Yep.
For the other stuff like social media, like I said, that's a big part about, at least growing in this industry. And so, like I said, I have Slack this past week, but having like a scheduling app where you can like queue up some posts in advance, oftentimes I'll like smoke a cigar, or I may smoke a couple cigars in a day. I will always like try to take notes about the kind of the cigar. I'll take a picture and then I'll sort of just like upload that and kind of have like content to pull from. So that way you're not scrambling. You're like, oh, I haven't posted in like a day. I need to go like take a picture of cigars. Like that's where it gets stressful versus, oh, hey, I've got like a library of, 15 cigars that I've smoked and I have notes in my phone so I can post about them. That takes the stress away from that equation, and scheduling them in advance kind of lets you kind of like puts you on autopilot, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think really that those are the two things for me, and I'm still learning how to execute. I've got a full-time job. Like I said, I'm a new dad. I also do like consulting and so it's really like my days are kind of saturated with doing. And you have to be willing to kind of sacrifice a lot of the stuff that you may like to do, but not get to. Like I'm a video gamer, but I don't even know if I can call myself that anymore because I barely get to play. Yep. So
I'm right there with you, man.
My friends are all big gamers and they're like, oh, you haven't been on. And I'm like, I've just been too busy. So part of it is sacrifice too.
No, it really is. You sacrifice time with your friends, time with your family. But the flip side to that is you do get to meet a lot of great people and you get to cultivate some of these relationships. And you've done a great job of cultivating relationships with B&Ms in the business that do some online selling, and you've been able to parlay that into some great discounts for your readers, for your newsletter subscribers. Talk about how some of that comes about. Is it awkward for you to go up to a B&M owner and say, hey, can we get a discount for the readers?
So what I usually do, and so I do a spotlight every week. Almost every week. Like that's one of those things that sometimes it doesn't work out. There isn't a spotlight. But I basically do a spotlight every week, and it could be a store, it could be a community, it could be a podcast, YouTube video, you name it. And usually I stumble across them. It might be someone that I've made a purchase with or someone's told me about. And I'm like, hey, this would be something cool to tell the readers about. And so I do the spotlight, but usually I reach out and I say, hey, do you want to be in the blend? I have a spotlight section. I would love to put you in there. And they'll be like, well, how much does it cost? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't cost anything. Like, I'm just trying to provide value. But I will say, like, if you want to get, the subscribers to your site, it would you should incentivize them with a discount. And that's kind of the approach I always take is like, you don't have to offer a discount. I'm not requiring that of anyone, but if you want people to come to your site, if you have a promo code, chances are you'll get people there faster. But those brick and mortars too, I like getting them in there. And I wish more people would send me good ones to put there, because this past year, I think for a lot of brick and mortars have been very hard because they've had to really shift to being online and to doing online sales, shipping lots of products. So it's been a tough year. And for them to go to head with like the titans of cigar retail, it's like an uphill battle. So any kind of edge or, little benefit that you can give these guys, I love doing it. I relish it, and that's why that's kind of where the spotlight started. And I think one of the first ones I ever put in, actually the first two were Oxford Cigars down in Florida. And then Nickel City Cigars out in Buffalo. Those are the first two that I did. And I still have relationships with those guys. I talk to Lucas from Oxford Cigar all the time. He has been a huge advocate for the blend, and he's really been like someone I've leaned on. And, Tom, actually both Toms from Nickel City have been great. There's so many awesome guys out there doing business. And I'd love to get them kind of, get more eyes on their businesses. Well,
not to spoil anything, but I'm going to try to get Lucas on from Oxford Cigars here pretty quick. Like a lot of things are just up in the air right now for me, and I'm like scheduling things is weird. Like we talked about somebody that has so two people have said literally in the last 2 weeks, you need to get this gentleman on the show. So I need to reach out to him as well. But Lucas, I do want to get Lucas on. I've already talked to him. He's all in. He's like, yes, absolutely. Just give me a time. And I literally just have to find the time to sit down. Like we had to reschedule a couple times because of some things that went on here that were out of my control. And so I appreciate you being flexible. So it is a lot, but you do have these great relationships with these guys. And they're like, yeah, we'll give you this promo code. And you have like something from Oxford almost all the time. It's like every time I open the newsletter, I'm like, there's something from Oxford.
Yeah. So Lucas has become a good friend. And so a lot of times too, is like, it's a platform for him to kind of, to do a little, I want to say like marketing. Like if he's got like something, he's like, hey, I've got these cigars, people want them. He's a smaller shop. And so it's a great place to be like, hey, I know that the people that subscribe to the newsletter want them and you have them. So let's get them out there. Let's do a promotion. He's done some really like deep discounted stuff, like 20-25% off. We've had some really good things, in there, he's a lot of the warped releases, stuff like that.
Yeah. When the new Maestro, Del Tiempo came out, I don't remember the number. I'm old. Forgive me, guys.
6102R.
There you go. 6102R. That sounds right. When that came out, I had already bought some, and then you showed up on Keepers of the Flame and you're like, I got this code for Oxford. You can get, the Maestro del Tiempo. And I'm like, done. And so I did. And they came like, so when I order online, there's a couple of things that I always look for. The number one thing is how they package it. Is it taken care of? Do they understand that the USPS is not going to take care of it, so that they have to take care of it in the packaging and how they send it? And he did. Like, it had a Boveda. It was extremely well packaged. And so I'm like, well, I'm definitely ordering from this guy again, because he gets it. And not everybody does.
Yep.
And there are some online retailers that are strictly online that just do not get it.
Well, that's the thing, is like that's kind of the line in the sand, is there's like volume retailers where it's all about, very, very slim margins, but then you have the brick and mortar retailers, these guys that are smaller, and they pride themselves in like really, really good customer experience. And so, Oxford Cigar is one of those where it's like you said, it's like, hey, you're going to get a handwritten card. You're going to get, a Boveda pack. They're going to be well packaged. They're going to be well taped. The box, it's like that is part of the, part of the allure of these, these shops. And actually, to say, like, to give, I think really for me, what turned the corner with like Lucas at Oxford Cigars is, back in, I want to say it was 6 months ago now, my wife, my daughter, and I, we all had COVID. And so my daughter was like, I think 6 months, 7 months. So it was like a scary time. And I had to bring my daughter to the emergency room. She was like, had a crazy fever, like, it was bad. And so I'm in this emergency room, and my 7-month-old daughter is sleeping on me. And, I'm messaging Lucas on Instagram about the HBC Black Friday cigars. And, and it was just like, I was something to do, like in the ERs, I needed something. And, he's like, well, I don't have them, but let me see if I can get them. And he reached out to the HBC rep, and he literally got a box for me. And it was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This guy did not have to do that. He gave me a huge discount on it because of basically what was going on in my life. And he sent me like a really, really nice card when I did it, when I got it. And like that for me was like, this guy's legit. This is the kind of store that I want to shop from, And I remember that. It was just like such a cool experience.
Yeah, for sure. I like the handwritten card. It doesn't have to have, something extremely personal, just a thank you. It's a handwritten thank you. And that's been lost for the last 15 years, I think, in society. Do you remember, like, when I grew up, my mom was like, you have to send a thank you card. Somebody gives you a gift. Somebody comes to a party. Somebody does whatever. You have to send them a thank you card.
Yep. It's, I'm still terrible at that when it comes to getting gifts and sending anything.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, absolutely. But I like it when retailers do it, because it's just that little extra mile that not everybody does.
Yep, exactly. So shout out to Lucas for that, but shout out to all the retailers do it. Nickel City does it. They pack the thing so well, like it takes me an hour to open the package. Todd over at Wooden Indian Tobacco, he does a great job. I've gotten a bunch of stuff from them. So there's so many retailers out there. Cigar Art in Texas. I've bought stuff from them. There's just so many. I could go on and on naming them.
Yeah, there's a ton. So what's coming up next for the blend? Do you have any big plans for the blend? Are you going to be out there at events now that things are starting maybe to calm down from the Rona? Maybe not. Who knows?
So
you got plans?
I am evaluating potentially attending TPE. I don't know. This is going to be part of getting my wife's buy-in. We'll see. I got approved for a press pass, so that was cool. So potentially getting out to TPE, but I am planning an event right now, which I obviously would love to plug here.
Go for it. 100%. What's coming up?
So I'm planning an event called Smoked. I mentioned a bit about last summer where I was having guys over for whiskey, smoked meats, and cigars. And, they kept saying, like, we got to do this bigger, blah, blah, blah. And, with COVID, knock on wood, getting a little bit better, people getting vaccinated. I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to do this. I've got the blend now. So May 22nd out here in New England in Massachusetts, I'm hosting an event. And basically you get cigars, you get whiskey, you get all you can eat barbecue. It's basically a big smoke style event. It's on May 22nd. And so I'm ramping up for that. So that is the next big venture for the blend. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to www.wesmoked.com.
www.wesmoked.com. That's awesome. That's huge. I wish I would have known about that. I've already bought tickets to the Queen City Cigar Fest in Charlotte for the May 19th through the 23rd.
Oh, damn. See, look, I would have definitely been trying to lure you out. I mean, I figured because this is a new event, I'm like, I got to pull in a lot of the local people, but I'm hoping that, once we get this one, kind of off the ground, that hopefully this will be a regular thing, maybe a 2 time a year, 1 time a year, hopefully 2 times a year thing. But right now I'd at least like to do it yearly.
No, that sounds like that'd be a fun time. Like, that's right. That's in my wheelhouse. It's like one day, all like you're smoking, you're drinking, you're eating, like that's in my wheelhouse. I could do that.
Yeah.
That's a weekend.
You can't go wrong. You get cigars, barbecue, and drinks, plus there's going to be vendors there, like coffee vendors, beer, Sazerac companies out to do like tastings of, Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Sazerac Rye. So it should be a good time. I'm doing giveaways. I've been working, pretty hard on getting sponsors and brands involved. So it should be a good time.
That's awesome. Give that website one more time.
www.wesmoked.com.
There you go. www.wesmoked.com. Sign up for the Blend newsletter. Go to theblend.news, put in your email address, and you too will know about all this stuff and everything about this. It's such a great newsletter because it does have deals. It has the reviews. It has all the news that you want, not all of the fluff you don't. Evan takes the time to go through it. I highly encourage all of our listeners to go to theblend.news and sign up for that. And if you're going to be in the New England area, May 22nd this year, check out this. What are you calling it?
Smoked.
Smoked. I like that. It's simple. Just one word. Smoked. Check that out at www.wesmoked.com. All of this will be in the show notes at the bottom. So make sure that you click those links. Go support Evan. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Simply Stogies. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. And everyone, go to buy a coffee for James. He is someone that is very active. He has been one of my supporters for a long time. He's been someone that I've been able to ask questions, and he's supported me on, Instagram and all that stuff. So, James, thank you again for having me on. And, please guys, he puts out a great product. So I'm imploring you to go support him. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. That means a lot. Because a lot of this, like, I do this for fun. I don't do this to make money. You do this for fun. This is your passion. It's our passion. We enjoy the hobby. And it's great to meet all these different people from all these different backgrounds and all these different walks of life that come together in celebration of this plant that we all love.
Indeed. It is the central thing that brings all of us together.
It is the great equalizer, as I think Glenn Loops likes to say. So again, Evan, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you down the road and have you back on, catch up with you.
I would love to. And if you guys ever need anything, you know where to find me.
Perfect. Everyone, that's going to do it this week. Join me next time when I'm not quite sure what I'll be talking about, but I promise it'll be Simply Stogies. Stay smoky, friends.
Thank you for listening to Simply Stogies. Please rate and review Simply Stogies on iTunes. You can follow James on his cigar journey on Instagram at Simply Stogies Podcast, all one word, and on Twitter at the Twitter handle at Simply Stogies.